The whole goal of the administration is to keep the sheep focused on climate change, Epstein, Orange Man, UFOs, politics, and religion. Keep you fighting each other. That's the whole goal of religion and politics. Means nothing. Really means nothing. I promise you, it means nothing. It was all made up for you, because hiding history meant to hide a repeating cosmic cycle. They knew that this universe would reset. They knew that long-term infrastructure was a waste of time. Hard to believe, isn't it? The ancients were more advanced than we are. Our progress is only a temporary window between disasters. The Adam and Eve book that Chan Thomas wrote in 1966 vanished, and the CIA created the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. And when that came about, they were the good guys. They offered that book back to you, but only 57 pages of the original 284. So people knew the story, but they didn't have the dates. And since then, scientists have been trying to pin down the actual dates. We know we're close because of the 12,068 year cycles and the half cycles and quarter cycles. But we don't have the exact dates. The Mayans said it was 2012. Doug Vogt figured out through the coding in the Torah that it was 2046. So how did we get here, and how has all this been hidden? Chan Thomas was a very high-level UFO research project engineer, and he gave the mechanical explanation for the cycles of the world, and he aligned it with the Great Fires in 1871 that I told you about, and the myths. He says that the inner core of the Earth is a giant electrical motor, and that every 6,000 to 7,000 years, the core gets to the 0 point, or the magnetic null zone, which causes the mantle to lose grip of the core. When you study crust, the studies of the crust, what happens during a pole shift is the pole moves, the magnetic power moves slowly. And when it moves from the North Pole to the equator. Now, can you imagine what happens? There's a massive momentum of ocean power, and reports based on LIDAR and all the equipment says that when the Earth changes, there are 2-mile high water hills over the Earth. Some people say that the moon is like a silent witness to all this. And I remember when I first met Doug, one of the first things he told me was about the moon stuff and going to the moon. He said, Cindy, we just had to find out if the sun had nova. And we found out that it did from looking at the tiny pieces of glass on the moon. So when the sun novaed and put out that big solar blast, it took the rocks on the moon and made them into glass beads. And so only on the side of the moon that was facing the sun. So there were many ways that they confirmed this information. These tiny glass beads are called microspherules, and you've probably heard of that. Actually, there's a guy that I've been listening to, I can't think of his name, that talks about the microspherules in our body. But these microspherules come from volcanic action billions of years ago, where meteorites hit over and over. Some say that the beads were glazed over time. I'm trying to read my notes. Some say that the beads were glazed over a period of time because of the sun, but it's not true. It had to be from a flash, intensive radiation, not a slow heat, or it wouldn't have done that. So it acts like a kiln if you've ever done pottery. Thomas Gold was maybe the first scientist that figured this out, and Doug Vogt definitely was one of the very first. And then Ben Davidson, learned a lot from Doug Vogt and talked to him. And then we've got people like Randall Carlson that figured it out by looking at the physical land. So the top people know that this is true. Davidson added some information to Gold and Vogt by coming up with a galactic current sheet. And that's where he actually looked at the Earth as being a record, a disc on a record player that's just kind of wobbling around, right? And when the cosmic dust from the sun gets voluptuous or gets a lot, then it builds up energy, and I think it's like a capacitor. But anyway, it builds up energy and flips. And that's what happens. We're turned upside down, basically, and the Sahara becomes water, and the waters become mountains. It just is a flip, a switch. And that's why everything is so weird. That's why we can tell from LIDAR that there were civilizations in North America that were huge, right under the cities that we build on top of them. Why? Because things are built on ley lines of magnetism, and those don't change except every time the sun novas. So a civilization can build on that magnetic ley line without any problem after the solar cycle, because it's been cleared away. And so, just like I thought from the beginning, if you're going to pick out a temple, you're going to pick out the best spot. The best spots don't change except when the sun novas. So temples are built on temples. Get it? That made sense to me early on, but now it all fits together and makes perfect sense. We know that Mars has been warming, that Jupiter's red spot is fading, and that the rings on Saturn are heating up. There are signs everywhere that confirm what these great men have tried so hard to tell us. So, how do we know? One of the ways that they confirm this information was through isotopes. In the earth, there are deep cores, and also in the sea, we've been able to get deep core sediment samples. And in these samples, when we look back 10 or 6,000 years in 12,000 year cycles, we see beryllium-10 and carbon-14. These are minerals or whatever are created by cosmic ray bombardment. So the spikes when the Earth's magnetic field either fails or shifts, or when the sun blasts it in a micronova, it spikes and then realigns and resets. And it's done this and is confirmed in ancient literature. So we've got the lunar gas, which, the general academics will tell you it's just ancient volcanic ash. Then we've got the magnetic drift as proof, but academics will tell you that it's random internal flux. And then we've got the isotope spikes, and they'll tell you that this is supernova, but far away. So if you were to know the truth, you would pretty quickly figure out that the global economy is a giant pump and dump scheme. I feel it. You must. In medical industry, in every industry across the board, in food, they've known since the 70s, or way before that, really. I think they've always known, but it came out really with Chan Thomas and then with Doug, and it's been deeply hidden. If they told people this, guess what? The economy would fall apart. They need people to build the seed vaults underground and to build the bunkers for the elite. That's what you're good for. Now, how is it hidden? Like everything. Throughout the history of my research, the one I've noticed a couple things that will never leave me. One is compartmentalization. If you want to confuse people, break it down, divide to conquer. Put the astrophysicist over here and the geologist over there, right? Separate the people so they can't talk. That's the whole scheme of government, is to break it down in little pieces so the little sheep, they do the work, but they don't know the end product. They don't know that they're contributing to evil because they only see their little square. You get it? It's everywhere. So all those people, when I first started finding this out, I tried my damnedest to get Doug Vogt and Randall Carlson and Ben Davidson together. I put it out there, I begged, but I didn't have any power at that time. And now I understand why they all come from such different perspectives to bring the truth together. And I've added other people that have helped me understand even more. But the truth is, this is the truth. It's scary, it's evil, and it's real. They had to put together a narrative or the economy would fall apart. So they could not give you the terrifying, coherent picture of truth. So, where do we go? What do we do? Where are they building their bunkers? I can tell you some places. The high plateau of Africa, the Brazilian highland. Doug said limestone caves are the best. On the shadow side of Earth, probably the Ozarks or the Appalachians. And the important thing was to have caves to shield us from the cosmic radiation, which is one of the most dangerous parts. So to be safe, we would need to be 2,000 to 3,000 feet above sea level, 400 miles at least inland, far from the fault lines, and because the fault lines will unzip when our crust shifts, and have ability to caves to block the solar radiation. The government undergrounds are, oh my gosh, deep and extreme. In Denver and the Cheyenne Mountains, there's a big complex. In the Ozarks, in the Swiss Alps, they have no plans to save you or me, not the surface people, not the sheep. But they're moving everything to the basement to wait for the reset. And I'm here. to try and let the sheep know what's going on. But 95% of you won't even entertain what I'm telling you. Stay tuned for part 3.